So first and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. This is a really important opportunity for us to get to know you more and you to get to know us more and to talk about what AIM's going to kind of deliver this year and set some clear expectations and stuff around that. First and foremost, though, I'd like to acknowledge the good media country that we find ourselves on today and pay my respect to the elders past, present and future. And those future elders are why we're here today and the aim of AIM mentoring is really kind of allowing these young people to step up and become the next generation of elders. I also acknowledge that we find ourselves in a place like an educational facility here, but Media Country's been a place of education for tens of thousands of years, and it's really nice to continue progressing education here on this country. First of all, we're going to show you guys a video from our CEO, Jack, and we'll move through.
So we contact teachers back home in Australia. This year we can't wait to work with you and deliver the most focused program we've ever delivered. I'm currently standing in Soweto in South Africa in front of the Hector Peterson Memorial, and one of the lines it says is, remember those youth who gave their lives in the struggle for freedom and democracy. And I think at the heart of what we're trying to do with these kids is give them a chance to rise up, to find their freedom, to believe in democracy, to believe they have a place in society. So we're going to, this morning or this afternoon, we'll be catching up for 1 hour at the round table. We'll show a couple of videos today of the program in action. Some of you will have seen it before, some of you may not have. And you'll have a chance to be able to just get a refresher, and then we'll set some expectations on what we want to try and deliver this year. We want to see a generation of Indigenous kids to step up and really take on not only Australia, but take on the world as well. So hopefully you're willing to work as hard as possible with us, because we're on your team and we want to change the culture of the schools and all the communities around you. And carrying the legacy of kids like Hector and people who have risen up to stand for something more and sacrifice their lives to give us the opportunity to go today. So have a good day, and can't wait to work with you this year.
So, guys, I'd like to echo what Isabel said a minute ago in terms of thanking you, especially given it's a Friday afternoon and you're so generous with your time. But we very much look at what we do at AIM as a partnership with you guys as our primary stakeholders of the schools. And I believe we actually are all running at the same target. And I think the more we can link arms and run together, the more effective we're going to be. We're going to see greater outcomes for the kids who we are passionate about supporting as educators. So in terms of understanding our passions and our dreams for the students we work with and for Indigenous communities in general across the country, I'd like you guys to do a bit of an activity with me today, if that's okay. We've got some coloured paper in the middle of the table there and some markers. If you could just grab one piece of paper each and a marker and jot down on that bit of paper a dream you have for Indigenous young people that could be in your community, or a dream you have for Indigenous Australia or Australian society as a whole. The idea is we're going to put our dreams down on paper and share them together as a group, so we know what that target is that we're running towards together. I've got a few that I've collected earlier in the week, put up the coast, and for us at AIM, we view dreaming as the first step to achieving a new reality. We get the kids to do this, and it's been a really powerful exercise, and I believe if you can't dream something's going to happen, sure as hell isn't going to happen. So really important for us to dream. I'll put some music on for us now, have about 2 or 3 minutes. We'll go around the table with Najara and share our dreams with each other at the back end of this activity. Any questions? Clear as swampy water. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
once is growing. Sweeping from the foreground, color here is true. I can't see you now. Staying is hard.
So something you might not know about me is that my favourite snack in the whole world is popcorn. So like the same energy as like a pot of, like not the microwave stuff, cheap stuff, like legit popcorn in a, pan, it pops around. I'd like to see that same energy pop around this table now. So we're not going to go around in any specific order. But if you have a dream you feel really strongly about, we're here to listen to you guys, and we want you guys to share it with us. So words are powerful. Please say them nice and clearly. I'll come around with my dream/cookie jar and collect them all up as we go as well. So feel free to let us off, or if anyone would like more time to finish paying theirs, let's get working on it as well. Just like the kids, I've got to wait for it.
Okay.
Oh, no.
I want our students to feel free to dream big, and for the students to take the steps to make these dreams happen, and for our students to feel the support of their community to reach their dreams.
Awesome, thank you very much. Can you give me some snaps for that one? Like in a poetry slam world, people respecting what you're saying. So let's see that energy pop around wherever it ends up. Let's just hear it.
All right. Help students achieve their absolute best in order that they may become people who can influence and change policies for the betterment of Aboriginal.
Beautiful, thank you. Want to pick that one? Thank you.
I want to see our Aboriginal kids take leadership, mentor roles themselves in school, community, future.
Right, beautiful, awesome. Potential's a good one.
My dream is that all Indigenous children feel supported enough to achieve their dreams, and that there are people who believe in them.
Awesome. Thank you.
I hope that students become confident, empowered, achieve their potential, proud of their cultural identity, and leaders within their community.
And I've got students to continue to build confidence, to create leaders, to foster leadership, but also to encourage communities and across the schools and also the communities that Coffs and Bucker all the way through.
Unreal. So getting the ideas out there is really key, and it gives us inspiration for where we can drive ourselves as an organisation in partnership with you guys and help turn these dreams into reality. I've got one here. It says, I dream of a future where Indigenous languages are taught at schools across the country as part of national and state curricula. And it's a funny one for me. Like, I learned a lot of French at school, a bit of Latin for a while as well. And yeah, it seems just off that it took me so long to even know what the traditional language spoken down in Canberra was. I didn't even know when I was about 10 finishing high school that none of the country is based on the Ngunnawal language group there, right? I just thought Ngunnawal was like a suburb of Canberra, which is one of the new suburbs finally named after the traditional custodians down there. And that's a bit back to front for me, considering that I went to a good school, good schools in that sort of sense. So thanks very much for sharing, guys. A jar full of dreams is much healthier for me than a jar full of cookies too, so it's good to have this to reflect on and understand where we're going as an organisation and as a community of educators.
I think one of the main things I wanted to address in today's meeting is the setting up tutor squads for this year. I believe it's something we haven't done successfully in this area previously, but this year it's a key goal of ours to get established. The AIM framework is that we are a bridge between schools and university, and there's 2 lanes on that bridge, and at the moment, historically, we've only been using 1 lane, and that's bringing the kids to the university, but now we want to take the university to the kids as well. And it's really key to allowing us to create better relationships with the kids and to know what's happening in their lives more and how to support them better to complete high school and transition onto positive pathways. From our perspective, we want the tutor squads to really be a flexible framework for you guys to kind of identify what the needs are the most for your students, whether it be some really intensive stuff with your senior kids or a bit more lighthearted, kind of still academic focused stuff with more junior kids. And so out of this, we hope to get some days scheduled that we can come out to the schools and start running this some time slots and kind of what your key focuses are around that. We've got a video here of what a day in the life of the tutor squad looks like at one of our other schools down in Sydney.
So most tutor squads with our schools are run on a weekly basis, usually the same time and day. So for example, here we do it at 6:30 to 8 p.m. every Monday. Every Monday. Yes, good idea. We're like, yeah, let's go. Let's go do some work. That's the only time we ever hear us say it, but we just forward. The most important thing about any tutor squads in particular is that human connection around these things. We'll have a lot of other tutor squads or mentoring programs that really focus on study and the educational section of it. And whilst that is really important here at AIM, it's getting to know your mentor and getting to build that connection with them that really helps out our students.
It inspires young kids. They see older people going to uni, and because they meet on that personal level, they're like, oh, because where I'm from, not needed for uni. So when I first started the AIM program, I was like, uni's not just a really hard opportunity to get, it's right there, and I can get it if I want it.
Get that one-on-one support with your schoolwork assessments, and then also maybe you just want to sit there and say, like, I'm really not having a good time with this teacher, or I'm too shy to put my hand up.
It's not purely just about studies, it's like they come in on a personal level, they help you, they talk about your day, they talk about their day, they play games, it's fun.
Yeah. Two really important things about AIM tutors was one, opening yourself up. Kids are more likely to trust you and feel like they can share with you if you're willing to share a little bit of your story. And then secondly, showing up every single week. That kid knowing that you're going to be there again and again and again is absolutely pivotal in them being able to trust you and learn.
Knowing that AIM people are volunteers and they come because they genuinely want to, it just helps. If we ask from other people, we just feel as though like they have to do it, but the genuine support and help that we get, we appreciate it so much.
So I think the key piece for the tutor squad there is that whatever's going to work best for the school, we'll do our level best to make it happen. I'm just going to hand out a bit of a checklist now, which should be a bit of something to be able to follow along when I chat through the next section of our presentation. And that's the way we see this year ahead folding, so unfolding here across our Coffs regions, and some slight changes that we're hoping to implement as well to see really positive outcomes out of the work that we're doing with your schools and your students. So number one there on the list is to confirm the date and time that will work for a tutor squad to be running at your school. So some schools up the coast think you're doing like a breakfast club as an option, others are, picking a lunchtime because the leadership at school are really specific about kids not being out of class too often, and we don't want to sort of butt heads with any of the bosses there. And other schools are happy to allocate like a tutoring time, which can only be used for pastoral care of a different kind. If it can be class time as well, it's really effective because kids are already there. And obviously understand that sometimes after school isn't always great if kids are on buses, but some schools after school does work as well. So let us know. And the reason why we're pushing you guys for these dates and times now is because we've just kicked off our mentor recruitment for the year and are in the process of recruiting volunteers. We're aiming to kick off tutor squads in week 4 of term 2. That'll be just after our plan window, just after our first program days. We'll be able to highlight to the kids that'll be happening at school. It's really important that they take ownership and match the effort and intent that you guys and ourselves are putting in terms of making that support available to them. We want them turning up again. And ideally, we've run a minimum of 10 tutoring sessions through the remainder of term 2 and all the way through term 3 at your school. If we get every one of our 10 or 11 schools in the Coffs region saying we want tutoring, we might look at doing something once a week. If we can get enough mentors to facilitate those sessions, we could look at having them run once a fortnight. So we still get our minimum of 10 and might extend beyond term 2 into term 4 to make that happen as well. Making sense so far? Beautiful. Let us know the dates and times, and that'll be a bit of an impetus and a bit of a spur for us to go even harder and hassle all these uni students to do something valuable and positive with their spare time and take that extra responsibility. And a lot of our returning mentors are there already. They're wanting more responsibility, more engagement with the kids, and it would be great to get them out to your school to create that second lane of that bridge of mentoring. Before we move on from tutor squads, I will highlight that we'll go through all our regular compliance requirements, so working with children checks. All that information will go physically with our mentors, like a little pack when we go out to your school, so if you reference them on the day, we can send you through PDF copies as well for you to have on file in case any of the staff and you have any questions around. I know a good number of our students here who are keen to mentor with us are education students, so it's really positive for them to be able to have that in-school experience. And these are the communities they want to be working with, the kids that like to work when they graduate. We'd love to be able to give them the opportunity to upskill while they're still studying here. Awesome. Number 2, we'd like you guys to book a day or a time for us to be able to come in and present to your whole school at an assembly. And a secondary piece, which we'd like to do in addition to the assemblies, is to pitch the program, the opportunity to be part of AIM to the students who are eligible to be part of AIM this year. So there's 2 reasons why we do the assembly presentation. I think for the kids that are 50-50, and you might look at the number of students you have at the school and think we've got X number of eligible students who could take part in AIM, but then at the end of the year, you might be, say, half of that or 40% who are actually coming to AIM regularly. Those kids that are 50-50 gives them like a touch point of what AIM is about. We use this assembly presentation to celebrate the achievement of kids in the program from last year, also show some content we've developed, we have access to AP at your schools, to highlight to the students themselves, plus the broader student group and the broader school community, what AIM is about. And the power there is that we're going to dispel any myths about what the program might look like for people who haven't engaged in it as regularly. And that could be other students, it could be other staff who might think, oh, it's, you know, these nice looking hoodies, or kids talking about getting free subway, but we can actually explain to them it's about shifting mindsets and changing students' propositions about their future success and using a more positive sense of self and identity as part of it. So really kind of dispelling any myths that might be out there in other teachers or other students about what AIM is about and what we're actually doing here. I'm not sure that's the same for your schools, but that was some of the feedback we had from other schools up the coast, is that maybe while our contact teachers are really familiar with AIM and really supportive of it, there were potentially other elements in the school that might not have had as clear a line of sight and a clear understanding of what we're actually doing. So we'd like to open up our world for these assemblies.
Yes, we could be came out last year.
Yep.
We just need to start really.
Yep.
Awesome job.
Awesome.
In the start.
That's good. Thank you, Glenn.
Yes.
Glenn,
Yeah. It was fantastic.
Glenn's good. And I think that's really important. So then if you guys are sort of negotiating budget for buses or anything like that, and there's someone else thinking, okay, well, we haven't got support for our excursions, it's really clear that it's actually something the whole school can celebrate. Right, they're supporting students who are still like a living part of the world's oldest community culture, to feel more sense of pride in that and be able to share that back in their community. That's something we can all benefit from. So get us in there, we'll do the rest.
So how long would you like?
So during the assembly, we'll probably look at like a 5 to 10 minute presentation. During the assembly, and that can be sort of negotiable what works for you guys. Ideally, sort of the 10-minute end, if we have access to AV, it's just a sort of spoken presentation, probably 5 minutes would be plenty. And then immediately following that assembly, we could have all the students eligible to be part of AIM straight after we've spoken to them, to remain behind for us to pitch to them
really clearly the opportunity to be part of the program. We sort of hit them straight after we talk them at the assembly. And the real key part of our school pitch this year is that we're going to drill home stronger than ever before the fact that AIM operates as a high expectations environment. It's definitely not about just coming in and chilling out and hanging out with people and eating a bit of Subway and getting a hoodie after 6 years. They're here because they want to be here, they don't have to come along, but we want them to get the most out of it as possible. I know you guys put a lot of effort in negotiating terms with the bosses and signing off on agreements for us, and we really appreciate that. We want the kids to understand that this year, more so than ever. If there's any issues around attendance at AIM or behavioural problems with the kids, not that we've had a great deal in the past, but we're going to be really strict about kids making sure they're the best versions of themselves so everyone can enjoy this educational environment at its fullest and not have a kind of a change of energy or us having to put in more effort to kind of bring the kids who don't necessarily want to be here up to speed with the rest of the group. So we're going to place that expectation on them pretty firmly from the start. And another mechanism for us to do that is number 3. We're looking at conducting an interview, or I would frame it for the kids as a bit of a catch-up session or a getting to know you session if they're new to the program this year. And ideally, we'd have a 10-minute allocation with each student. As part of this, where we'd sit with each student for 5 minutes of that 10 minutes and do a bit of a getting to know you activity with one of our AIM staff members. So there's probably 2 parts to this activity that are worth highlighting. The first bit is capturing some baseline data of where the kids are at in terms of their sense of identity and their sense of pride in their identity or connection to their culture. And then the other part of it is understanding what their future career aspirations are. So how they value themselves and their potential post-school. The reason why we're taking this time now is this is our first session with the kids. Instead of waiting until we get them on campus in May, we're actually going to sit with them at your schools in the next 5 weeks and go through this process with each student on an individual level. It'll give myself, Isabel, the other program staff and mentors a chance to get to know them. There'll be a few other questions in the mix there as part of this getting to know you activity, which aren't going to be sort of monitored or marked, but for us just to be able to have those conversations and break down that barrier they might have at the start of the year with someone new or an adult or someone outside of their family. But those 2 are really key, I think, because at the end of the year, when we check in with our kids and see how they're progressing their time at AIM, we'll give you guys not just the baseline indicator for each kid at the start of the year, but then also their progress marker, where they've gotten to at the end of the year. And then when you're going back to the boss at the end of the year saying, okay, well, what's AIM about? Well, each kid, you can show them what AIM has been about in the last 12 months. We'd like to, we hear from the kids that they love it, but we'd like to see exactly how much they rate that in terms of those 2 key indicators for us, the sense of pride in their identity and their strength of connection to their culture and their future career aspirations or their understanding of their potential through that lens. Hopefully that's making sense so far. It's a better time this week, so like round day for me. But it is going to be a little bit more work, if I'm completely honest with you guys, in terms of making this happen. But I feel like the dividend is there for all of us to have a really rich data set to be able to go back to their internal stakeholders or for us to be able to go to other schools who've maybe disengaged with AIM in the last 5 or 8 years that we've been running here, or 10 years, I think, actually this year. But then to say, look, this is our new normal. This is how we're going to operate. This is what we can provide for you in terms of what's this program about. They're not just skipping out of school, they're not just getting a goodie after 6 years. We just show from year 7 through to year 12. For year 7 this year, they started out their journey, where they ended up in the time they get to year 12. And essentially, while we do this, they're getting to know them, changing their mindset, supporting them to understand who they are and what their future might look like for a more positive sense of self. It's a 6-year warm-up, so we're ready. We've got that trust developed with those students, that key junction when they finish school and they go out into the big bad world. That's what the work we're doing with the year 12s from last year. In previous years, we've potentially struggled with it a bit in having that link really strong. Again, so trying to catch them and see where they're at. We'd like to have their support, have them feel supported from the get-go all the way through now. And this is going to be one of those mechanisms we're doing. It's going to start with a 5-minute interview or catch-up with each student at the start of the year. There was a theory I have in place at the moment for how this could potentially work from a nuts and bolts point of view. And I'm basically just putting this out to you guys for feedback at this stage. And it can be tailored depending on what works best in your school with this kind of setup. So obviously there's different numbers of kids at different schools. But basically, the way we saw it potentially working is once we do our assembly presentation, our school pitch, we could have a sign-up sheet there with all the kids in that room, not having to chase them down
at a different time of the day, and with 10-minute blocks split out for the day. We get the kids to sign up right then and there, and if assembly's first thing in the day, we could stay there for the rest of the day and set up in a support room or a common room that students are allowed to have access to, and the kids can almost work as runners for us and be having their interview when they finish up. We're only using 5 of the 10 minutes allocated. They can go grab the next kid before returning to class themselves. So this could work for a fair few of the schools. If you guys felt like you needed more than a full day, you could schedule 2 separate days or get more staff in to complete all in one day. And if you felt you needed maybe a bit of a grace period in between when we come for the assembly and do our school pitch, we do the sign-up still on that day, and then maybe say that our interview day is going to be either later that week or early the next week. And that could potentially give you guys a chance to publish that list through your staff groups, so the staff can understand that kids will be out on that day for 10 minutes at a time out of class. You can do copies of it on the staff room walls and that kind of thing, in case that could be a sticking point for the bosses or for other staff at school. So, did any of you guys have any feedback at this stage about whether that could work, thumbs up, or whether that definitely wouldn't work, or if there's sort of a middle ground in between it, whether we're in the right ballpark even for something like that?
How many people are going to be reviewing? How many children at a time, or just one?
Look, we could potentially, in that allocation, like myself with my laptop and my mobile phone, I could do 2 kids interviews in that 10-minute window quite comfortably.
Well, I mean, is it just you coming, or is it going to be like 3 adults that have each like a child and they're talking to them, or is it just?
It's negotiable,
Right.
really. I think if we can have like a full day, but you think, okay, look, there's this many kids, we'll bring in our volunteers along for support.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we'll make
mentors you've got,
we're in the process of finalising the numbers of returning mentors, and it's only really just the start of that big recruitment drive. So, come to Isabel with dates and times it could work, and I can drag staff down from the coast if we need to, if the mentors aren't up for it. And we'll get them locked in. The idea is that in this session, we can really firm up the kids away from the group setting sometimes, like, have you thought about what comes next? Even if they're in year 7 now, like, what's your dream job? Rather than year 11 and 12, would be like, what are you doing next year or the year after? It's the same question, just a different kind of framework depending on the age group. And the real crux of it is we want to teach these kids how to fight. Not like schoolyard rules fight, I'm not encouraging that, I promise. But realistically, when they get to the end of year 12, there's no one ringing bells for them. There's no one putting necessarily lunch in their bag to get off in the morning or like signing notes for them. They're sort of on their own and working it out. We support them as best we can, but they get in that mentality, if they want something badly enough, they've got to fight for it. It's a nice saying about dreams. It's no good having them if you're not willing to fight for them, make them a reality. We want our kids to really know that, and that 5-minute interview will be a really important part.
I like it.
Beautiful, thank you.
Yeah, I do too, because I think it will make it more valuable.
For sure.
I think kids will see that it really is tailored to them.
Yep.
Take it more seriously.
Absolutely. And with this high expectation piece, I'm hopeful that kids having that sense of value creates less work for you guys in the long run, because you're not saying, come and get a permission note from me maybe, instead of you having to go around and distribute them all out for the next excursion. Bring it back by this data, you're just not going to get on the bus. And we're happy for you guys to be like that with them. We'd rather have the quality of interaction and progress of each of those kids, which we know they're going to measure, rather than sheer numbers. I'd rather say to each of your principals at the end of the year, if there was a drop in numbers compared to actual, as long as there's a consistent increase in each of those kids' future career aspirations and positive sense of self through the lens of their Indigenous identity, that's wins across the board for me.
I think so.
Sure. Yep. And we start. It's a great example of a kid like I remember chatting to. We're going into year 11 now. So I first came up to Lisbon in year 9. He was in year 9, so 2 years ago. And I think in his mind, he was like, I'm just going to drop out in year 10. And, my uncle was a carpenter and he does a pretty good job. He drives like a nice 4-drive, whatever that's going to be me. This kid, I said, look, that's awesome. You have a strong role model who's got a good job and is employed and you look up to, and that's your ideal. I think that's really positive. You're not going to take that away from the kid. But I said to that student, what do you think about staying through to year 12? Because I'm sure that opportunity as a trade pathway is still going to exist to you in year 12. I said to him, you're in year 9 now. I changed a lot from year 9 to the end of year 12. And there could be all these other possibilities you haven't thought of that become real to you or become options to you, whether it's through AIM or anything else. And so he goes, oh, yeah, okay. I'll think about it, you know. And sure enough, he's still in school now, in year 11, and he's committed to going through year 12. And the other part of the conversation was it's great to have that role model. His dream then, starting in 9, was to carpenter. It's a valid dream, great ambition to want to be working. And he likes doing stuff with his hands. But I said, have you ever thought about, you know, what the extension of that is? Would you ever think about running a business where you have multiple people working for you? You think about going, starting that as a base trade and maybe looking at going into building to property development or sort of aiming that a little bit further up and extending yourself that bit further. And the more time we have with them, whether it's 5 minutes at a time or 45 hours from year 7 all the way through to year 12, we start to make that extension of their ideal or their future a reality. Super exciting. So if you guys feel like this is going to work, we're open to how it best works in terms of how many numbers we bring. It's just a 2-hour block that you can afford us. We'll hustle and get more people there. We'll work out a way to interview more kids at the same time, maybe do like a group interview session kind of thing. But communicate with us and we'll work out the solution together.
I like your idea of the individual.
Yeah, and like the tutor squads, this is flexible and we want to make it work best for you, and so it's easiest to run it up.
And ideally, we capture every single kid who's going to be part of AIM, year 7 all the way through year 12. If its numbers is going to be tricky, we don't go year 7 and 8 offering until later in the year, so we could potentially just focus on year 9s to 12s in the next 5 weeks before you have a term, and then interview year 7s and 8s further down the track, before they come onto campus or before we start tutor squads. And the other part of this is if, you know, year 9 or 10 students isn't there on that day when we're there, we're going to run getting to know you stations or interview stations as part of our AIM program. So we're still going to capture information for you. So for every student that comes to AIM, by the time we finish this year, we'll have that start of the year baseline data, end of the year, create a really rich sample set for each of the kids' progress across the year. I think we've got it. I'll stop talking about the same thing.
So we cover some of that in their field.
Okay.
So they can have that sort of already been thinking about that before they meet with you guys. So they just get there and go,
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And it's a nice feedback for us to learn. We've had this discussion as well on Wednesdays that we are working for the same goal.
That's right.
And for the kids to actually, you know, whether there's value in them hearing the same kind of questions coming from us as opposed to staff that they probably take for granted day to day. It's a bit like something new and shiny when they hear about it from the name t-shirt. But it's the same message. And the next time they're reminded about it from you guys, like, oh, yeah, everyone's sort of talking about this. I really got to start thinking about it and adopting it. And that's where they learn that. It's the first steps of their fight.
Yeah.
Good. The last piece is about sending out permission notes to parents and guardians. In the past, we've had like an application form / permission note in one for AIM. Basically, our catch-ups or interviews with the kids will be a live application. So the permission note, all that was left in it was capturing some contact info, which we're going to again do at the interview stage, and then also gaining photo permission to use students' images to support the program to grow and be celebrated through things like our Instagram or Facebook platforms. What we'd like to do is rather than have our separate permission notes in addition to your school's permission notes, is have a bit of text, which I've typed out there, included in your school's permission notes. The duty of care still sits with the school. Some schools have voted permission sort of in a general sense through the year. Whether we can just liaise with you guys either at every program day once we have a role with your kids, or when you're sending back parts of Isabel, just to make a note if any kids are for child protection purposes not to have their photo taken. We respect that more than just about anything else. The safety of kids is number one. So let us know, we'll work around that, but then it saves us sending another round of paperwork that it's not actually essential to what you guys do day to day. And we don't really need it in terms of like having kids come on campus as part of your school excursion. So it's just us giving them a little piece to add into your permission notes, and everything else will be captured through the interviews or getting to know you sessions. Whew, done. Any questions?
Yeah. Have you thought about doing a little session with parents
For sure.
about the program? Like we have Yana sessions where parents come in and talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Yep.
We could invite one of you along to talk about how the program works and how they can support their children in the program.
Absolutely.
Or if you're more than happy to attend.
So with any activity that's happening in your school to do with the Indigenous community in the school or celebrating Indigenous culture, first thing, best dress. We have 5 staff between covers of the Nambucca, Maxwell, Barrier, and all that to Tweed Heads. And we want to get out to school as much as possible because that's the richest form of engagement. Being actually out in the community, away from our offices, away from our campus here. So let us know when they're on, we'd love to be there. The other alternative is we can provide material as well.
Yeah.
A bit of information about even if we're not able to be there physically, we'll have something that parents can take away and digest with our contact details. That doesn't, it's not just about this opportunity to engage with parents. If you guys are doing native events at the school or anything to celebrate the Indigenous community in the school, we'd love to be part of it.
Please let us know.
Support the kids to drive that as well.
Yeah.
That's whether it's, some schools are different to others, and I don't have enough experience to talk about each of the schools individually, but some schools that I work with traditionally up in Lismore, we're hard pressed to get the kids to get up and do it in the northern country, and others are fighting each other off to do it and speak fluently in language while they're doing it. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there, but we'd like to support the kids to improve the situation at each of their schools, and that sort of will go a long way just stopping those questions being asked about, oh, what's this excursion, why is it only for certain kids and not others, and in fact, it is something that the whole school can get around. Awesome. The last part before we move on to a little activity is talking about the packages and the hoodies that are included in the packages this year. So 2 years ago, we had a pretty out there hoodie design, which wasn't necessarily the most popular at some schools. Last year we had a really good one, but the difference was between the year before last and last year is that the hoodies weren't part of the packages. We looked at the kids' achievement at the program day and then awarded them after the fact for kids who were able to have 100% attendance in year 9 and 10 and complete a few other tasks for us. That worked pretty well to a point, but there was some frustration from certain schools, might not be the same with you guys, that students were really being the best version of themselves at home and maybe not being up to the same mark when they were back at school. What we'd like to see them doing their best here, it doesn't really mean as much to us if they can't take that away with them and show those values in a really positive way when they're back at their school. So the hoodies are now back included in your packages, so whatever level you sign on, you'll have a number of hoodies included. The way we see this working is we'd like you guys to decide which students are most deserving of being awarded those hoodies at the end of the year, judged on the behaviour they've shown through the year, whether they're positive mentors or role models or leaders in their community, whether they're supporting with things like NAIDOC events or reconciliation week events or stepping up to do events of country, formal events at the school, whether they're supporting younger students through homework centres or supporting year 7s who are transitioning into high school. And it's not limited to the Indigenous students who are in the school. If there's a senior student who is, as a school captain, is really warm and receptive of the younger Indigenous students at the school or younger students and supports them and shows that same value of mentoring that we have at the core of our organisation, we'd like you guys to recognise their efforts. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be students either. You could have a staff member who, decides to put their hand up and drive a bus for you every time you have to come, or that sits there at a tutor school outside of their school time allocation or during their lunch break, they're happy to sort of be in the room and supervise kids. And if they're going above and beyond to make your lives easier, we'd love for you guys to recognise staff as well. That's kind of the idea of the hoodies this year. Hopefully that's made sense.
Because hoodies are over $50 each, we just have to put on our gift register.
Oh, okay.
So that's
We can, our government employees, of course. We could just say what the cost price is. I reckon it'll come well below 50. I'll say it like it was like a community price or something that's lower.
it's not a big deal.
Yeah, right. Maybe there might be a few. Hopefully the Department of Auditors aren't sniffing around too much. There'll be a few teachers. Awesome. So guys, I really appreciate your patience in supporting and listening so intently. I'm going to ask one more favour of you just to get the blood moving a bit. We're getting towards the end of our time together, which is great. We've got a couple of videos to go. But I just want to very quickly run through a little activity with you guys, and then we'll move into the last part of the session. Does that sound okay? Get you to hop up out of your seats and grab a spot on this carpet here, just in a circle all together.
I love these activities because I haven't done it.
Oh, you haven't done it yet?
No.
Yeah, so
Teach me.
I need a brave volunteer. Does anyone feel like being a brave volunteer? Okay. We're going to hop in the middle. We're going to make a circle around Di. And I'd like everyone to grab a couple of ping pong balls out of here. So, does everyone know the difference between underarm and overarm? So I'm going to need you to hop in the middle. Grab two each. Yep. And so, when I count to three, we're going to very gently lob one after the other, very gently, and lob, not throw in any case, just a gentle lob. Throw our ping pong balls one after the other into the middle, see how many guys can catch. So, Di, you've got to try and catch as many as you can.
We all throw at the same time.
Everyone, count of three is going to throw at the same time. So, guys, focus, and we're just going to throw one after the other. So, not all literally all at the same time, but each person will throw one after the other, but all together on the count.
Okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Nice and high. Nice and high. Okay, that's probably that's pretty good. So what I might do is get Di, can you just like pick someone to jump in the middle with you?
Okay.
We'll get two each. Yeah. Okay. We're going to jump in the middle. So we'll go two each again. I'm not three. Two of us have got three. Okay, so if you guys are now in the middle, it's the same goal. Try and catch as many as you can. What kind of strategy are you going to work? Maybe back to back, so you're facing different targets. Okay. On the count of three, we're going to do the same thing. We're just got the same number of balls here, but we're just going to throw them into the middle. There's one like three each. Throw them into the middle, one after the other, nice high lob. Ready? See how many you catch this time. 1, 2, 3. That's okay. All right, that's cool. So we might pick up all ones on the outside here, guys. How many of you got all together there? 5. 5? Awesome. So 5 from 2 up to 5. I'll get you guys to hand those back to me now. And maybe I'll pick another volunteer to help you guys out. Let's go 2 people, pick 2 people, one more each. Jump in the middle again. All right, we're going to hand those balls back. I'm going to pick someone else to jump in the middle.
Yeah,
You guys are all in the middle. Yeah, right. So,
This is great.
how many are you in there now? What's a good strategy now?
Okay.
We're going to concentrate on
I might go on the first. So,
Okay.
I've got a few balls over here. That's going to be okay, ready? You guys in the middle, we're going to count to 3 and throw them all together. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Just going to throw them in the middle. You dropped any?
Oh.
Unbelievable.
Skills.
So I'll get you guys to, rather than throw them at me, maybe just chuck them over. Just place them gently as we're up there. And try and work your way back to your seats, guys. I'll finish this up to the coming back to that spots. So, how was it for Di being in the middle by yourself? How was it for Di being in the middle by yourself?
I felt it quite challenging, but my teacher says catching balls is not my thing.
That's okay.
But that was right.
It was okay.
Yeah.
A pretty good effort, but it's pretty hard when you've got that many things coming at you.
It was really challenging because you kept on changing your focuses, one ball hanging saw the other one. And in the end,
And what was the solution?
focus on one thing at a time.
One thing at a time, but also being able to reach out and bring someone else in with you. Bring someone along with you for that difficult task. And then you guys did pretty well from 2 up to 5, I think. You brought a couple more people in and didn't drop a single thing. For me, that activity perfectly envisages how we're achieving those dreams that we set out earlier and how we're supporting these kids. If we're supporting them to understand it's okay to reach out to other people, bring people along on their journey with them to catch the things that are being thrown at them through those particularly difficult years of high school. And that's going to set them up for a really positive outcome. Make sure they're not dropping things. So thanks very much for indulging me, guys. It's a really great activity and great it worked out so well. I'll give you guys a few snaps. Just going to show a quick video now. Shows a bit of content from one of our program teams further set.
So program days are on Fridays, you spend the whole week gearing up for them. For me, it's about actually doing the things which help me be present, to be settled and have a clear mind. Have some time and space in the morning, so I'm not back to back, just rushed.
Affection for love Friday, my favorite.
Let's go. A good mentor is someone who is ready to sit, be present, to be the best sounding board, the best role model, the best sense of support they can be for an individual student.
I wouldn't miss a day and I'd be so sick and I'm going to aim because it makes me happy to be with these kids. You're mentoring kids, but half the time you're getting more out of it. You're getting just as much out of it. They're helping you as much as you're helping them. It's really a two-way.
Scary, isn't it?
Facilitating and doing staff members, and more importantly, a group of 200 mentors.
Alright, so our aim is to be around very soon. So let's run through this, why we do 6, and back up next.
My role is about firstly setting culture, monitoring performance, getting the best mentors and training them, and then engaging as many people as possible.
To be done, this is quite intense in terms of logistics, but we're good at logistics, we also have that.
It can be helpful to know a bunch of frameworks and structures, but in the end, you need to be able to express yourself as a leader. That's the goal. It's not much more complicated than that.
It's the best part, rocking up just before 9, you get to say hi to all the other mentors, you get pretty psyched, and then, it's get the kids, get the mentees, and try to gym up for the day, see what they're throwing you pretty much. It's always on you.
Hey everyone, welcome to our day 4 of AIM. So, before we actually head down to our location today, we're going to take a few moments to open up our folders and talk to our mentor about who we're wanting to mentor.
I think underpinning AIM is high expectations. This year, we asked kids to think about people in their life that they can mentor. That's a wonderful concept we get to break open an AIM. Say, hey, you're 15, but you're still capable of carrying a lot of these attitudes and values, like whether we can help people or whether we can engage in relationships. As a society, we do start believing 15-year-olds that they're able to do this stuff and they want to do this stuff. What we did this year at AIM is coming into the uni, 3 modules in one day. These modules consist of 3 20-minute blocks. We kick off with an AIM TV inspirational piece of content. These are often interviewed all around the world and then offered to the kids within the first 20 minutes in what's called AIM TV.
When the rain comes down, tell me where will you be?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I can start making films to us when it's not the end of the world if you don't decide what you want to do for a job by the time you're 18. People often get their idea of success and wealth confused. And success is whatever you decide.
Second, your activities. So we get a chance to get into our mentoring domain. We sit with a kid and discuss the value being presented in that AIM TV in the prior 20 minutes. We often do an activity to try to digest some of those kind of teachings. And that's where we get the mentoring relation really thriving.
That acts a difference from university. Way more confident, happy and straight.
What we did it on a very grassroots level this year, we actually got kids to tell their story on a piece of paper. We gave them a few helpful titles, like how to survive school, how to wrangle with your identity, gave them the structure, and they went to town. I think one thing we've learned a lot at AIM is the more that we give away the power of storytelling and give away the power of mentoring to others, that's when it really starts to soar. Third 20 minutes, play time. Play time in a practical sense allows your mentors to meet with a group of mentees doing a particular activity. And it might be pottery, 20 minutes. That activity occurs in one corner, another group of mentors with their mentees are doing another activity. We jump into the concept and we use the space in our brain which allows us to be comfortable not doing something right. Test out our skills and our bravery. So those 3 20-minute blocks allow us to kind of capture an intensive audience for an hour. One thing we did at AIM this year is we asked the kids to dream up really brave goals and we're kind of sticking it to your conventional SMART goals and specific and measurable. We've got them to think bold and write them down. Second to that, we said, if you want to achieve this goal, how about you set a sacrifice, something that you have to overcome and withstand to achieve that goal.
This is pretty much one of the fun days I had. Today, working with my team now, really setting in stone progress and really seeing all and facilitators that achieve all that first day. Just through a work today, she realized that she came out and did that. I'm way more confident. I want to go to school.
I think there's something within every single person that wants to get outside themselves and connect with someone else. One would think be able to focus on someone else's life as opposed to your own little internal struggles of seeing or achieving. You get to spend time, kind of mixing it with different ages, different cultures, and I think pretty exciting space for them.
So I guess from our perspective, the things like the tutor squad being present at your schools and pitching to the mentees and having that one-on-one connection with them really helps us make these program days as successful as possible. So I guess from here on, I think it's really integral that you guys get in touch with me and let me know what times work for you, how you see the tutor squads being, book me in for the assemblies. We'll get this off the ground and running. We've only got about 7 more minutes left, and then we'll have you guys out of here, hopefully a little bit earlier than originally planned.
And ourselves.
Yeah.
Cool.
We just got one more quick video, which is our Coffs video that was created by an Oscar Award-winning director, nominated, winning. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
30 seconds, instead every minute means a day. I hope you're walking in the sun. Hope you're going to be someone. Here I am, along my way. I always dreamt that one day I'll find you on my way. Maybe one day, maybe today.
So that was a animation we had commissioned to essentially sum up what we do. An idea of connecting humans to support one group achieve similar outcomes to what the other group are already doing. Seems so simple. I'm going to talk to you guys just for 2 minutes about our local and global vision for the year. And I'm going to hand over to Isabel to finish us off and give you guys another big thank you before we into our weekends with you. But before I move on, just in terms of the content, anything you've seen in terms of our videos, this presentation, anything you've seen as part of the program days from last year, all of that is now being revised into a version 2 of our content delivery system, which is going to be open source for you guys to access as part of your packages as well. Whether you think it's going to be valuable in a different kind of learning environment back at school or during a staff development workshop, which we could be present at if you're available, or you guys could be taking the content and using just to highlight what AIM is about in real terms, it's going to be available for you guys. And that COGS piece in particular will be something I'd look to show as part of our assembly presentations. We have access to AV as well as an AIM anthem that the kids produced as part of our AIM game competition last year. So I'm going to take you guys on a little trip down memory lane. We've got a minute to go, so really quick. But I started at AIM in 2015 here in Victoria, and our vision for Australia that year was to work with 5,000 kids across the country. 2015. Had a few less grey hairs, but it wasn't that long ago. And I think a few years before that, in 2013, a few of the staff at AIM had put up a 5-year plan. So there were 2 years into it. 2018 was the end of that 5-year plan. They said we're going to work with 10,000 kids by 2018. For me, starting in the organisation, I thought, that's pretty bold to be able to, double your numbers in the course of 3 years. But we were well on track. Between now and the end of the year, we'll work with 10,000 kids locally here in Australia. 1,000 more kids participating across universities and regions. I think the total cost is around the 400 mark in Barker and Grafton, which is super exciting in terms of the potential. The word potential comes up a lot in the dreams, but we can harness kids' understanding of their own potential, push them to the limits of their potential. Multiplied by 10,000, that's a pretty good space to operate across Australia. The next generation of Indigenous Australians coming through. Off the back of our learning for the last 14 years now in Australia, AIM was launched globally in 2018 as well. So 10,000 kids in Australia is great, but we're looking to work with another 1,000 or so kids across South Africa and Uganda. We'll have 3 program sites operating at 3 different universities. 2 in South Africa, 1 in Uganda. Really, really exciting. The intent is exactly the same. We're looking at ending inequality through education, through human connection. The application is separate. It's going to be run by universities in those countries, by staff from those countries, by people from those communities. The same way that AIMS works across the board in Australia, we'll be looking to make that same model thing across the world. Which I think the way things have gone in recent times will probably be good for something that's driven by hope and human connection and people coming out of disadvantage into places of opportunity. That's something that's pretty exciting to be part of. So thank you for committing yourselves to helping us learn and supporting us to grow as an organisation. And I just wanted to touch on that really quickly. But for us as a team locally, the show goes on here. We're 100% committed to your kids. And for me personally, I feel really blessed to be able to come down here semi-regularly this year. And I think we're in more than capable hands with Isabel. So I'm going to hand back to Isabel to finish off for the day. Thanks again.
Yeah, so really I'd just like to thank you all for coming again. I'm sorry we came a bit late, but we're finishing early still. And I'd like to thank you all for welcoming me into your schools. Being quite new to the role, it's been a little bit daunting, but I've felt every single way. So thank you. And thanks for joining us. And please take some snacks home because there is way too late here. Yeah. Thank you. And I look forward to hearing from you guys soon with all this information. Yeah. Oh, and I have some envelopes here with some information I've already provided you previously, but just some colour copies if needed. Yeah. So I'll give them out to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I think so. One body. Yeah. Yeah, what they did last year.
That's all right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, just for our data.
We'll track attendance for kids with school in terms of that baseline. Just a chance of
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you brave enough to start their activities.